Greetings, everyone, and welcome to America in Focus, powered by the Center Square. I'm Dan McCaleb, Chief Content Officer at Franklin News Foundation, publisher of the Center Square Newswire service. We are recording this on Thursday, September 26th. Federal prosecutors secured an indictment this week in the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. The indictment charges Ryan Wesley Routh with the attempted assassination, forcible assaulting and interfering with a Secret Service agent, and gun-related counts. The new charges come as the U.S. Senate released a scathing report on U.S. Secret Service failures in the first assassination attempt on the former president. Joining me to discuss this is Casey Harper, Washington, D.C. Bureau Chief for the Center Square. Casey, let's start with the indictment. What can you tell us?
Yeah, there was a lot of concern about initially that Routh was not, maybe he wouldn't be charged with the right thing because the first charges that came through were smaller gun charges. But we see here that those concerns were actually just part of the sort of the legal process working out, and looks like Routh, the would-be assassin, is going to face some real charges here. Of course, that's such an interesting would-be assassin. There's a lot of levels to it. We've talked on this program before, Dan, about how he could have possibly known that Trump was at the golf course at that time. Raises questions about whether he had somehow obtained some information, whether that person knowingly was an accomplice or whether they were unwittingly an accomplice, of course. But was he working with anyone? Not saying he was, but Iran's Ayatollah released videos about Trump's assassination, essentially threatening to assassinate former President Donald Trump, who's now survived his second assassination attempt. So we see that, these are real meteor charges against Routh. I think is what people wanted, what people expected, kind of going to work its way through the legal process now. But what people are looking forward now, what's going to happen? We saw that the House and the Senate passed legislation this week to increase Secret Service protection for Trump and Vance. Really, it would be for all, nominees for president and vice president going forward, which, of course, Trump and Vance fit that bill. So, we're going to see, it looks like, assuming Biden signs it, and I think he will, he said the Secret Service need more help. With Biden's signature, we're going to see more protection for Trump. But it's still unsettling, Dan, even as we see some of, a report come out this week about the failings of the Secret Service. It's unsettling that we've already had two. And I wrote about assassination attempts, and I actually wrote about a poll this week that said most Americans, Dan, expect, sadly, another attempt on Trump's life before Election Day.
It is a crazy, sad story. Sticking with the indictment, Casey, the attempted assassination charge comes with the potential sentence, if convicted, of life imprisonment. Trump just last week blasted federal prosecutors for having only, up until that point, charged him with a couple of gun crimes, which, of course, did not come with the potential for life imprisonment. But now we have those charges. The judge in the case ordered Routh to be held without bond in a federal prison in Florida. So we're not going to, he won't be released anytime soon. Anything else to add to that?
He left a note, of course. He offered $150,000 to anyone who could, quote, finish the job. His lawyer is trying to say, oh, this was just a publicity stunt. That's kind of the defense that's being chalked up now. But we know he did have a weapon. He waited, according to his cell phone records, for 12 hours at that chain link fence in the sniper's nest. So, I don't know. There's going to be much patience for that argument.
Well, let's move on to the Senate report that was released this week, Casey. It was a bipartisan report. This was not, Democrats or Republicans or whatever. It was a bipartisan report out of the Senate that really was damning for the U.S. Secret Service, all their significant failures in protecting the former president during this July event, the first assassination attempt that happened at a Trump campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. You wrote about that report. Casey, tell us about it.
Yeah, as one Democratic lawmaker called it, a stunning failure. As you pointed out, bipartisan condemnation of the Secret Service. Of course, the head of the Secret Service resigned earlier this year in the aftermath of that first assassination attempt, which was widely criticized. I talked to security experts who were flabbergasted, couldn't understand how the Secret Service could have messed up so badly. And this report, Dan, I read through it, and it's pretty amazing. Some of the things are small but important, such as the radios weren't really working that day. They couldn't get them working. But that wasn't even a one-off. The agents, they were kind of used to the radios not working or having issues. And so it's not like oh, wow, the radios didn't work that day. How unfortunate. It's like, no, your radios never worked, and you knew that, and you didn't take the proactive steps to fix them, right? So, or to fix the problem. So they're having radio issues. They really didn't have the right meetings or planning that they were supposed to. They did not coordinate well, according to the report, with local law enforcement. And it looks like that communication, especially between local law enforcement and Secret Service agents, was not good. And there's kind of a stunning paragraph, Dan. This really shocked to me. And I'll read from the report. It says, approximately 2 minutes before shots were fired, the U.S. Secret Service security room located on the rally grounds was told that there was an individual on the roof of the building. Shortly before shots were fired, a Secret Service counter sniper observed local officers running towards the same building with guns drawn. And so, 2 minutes is a lifetime in a situation like this, Dan. And not only did they not fire on the shooter, I mean, you could maybe make a case that we can't just fire on someone because they look suspicious, but they could have got Trump off the stage, right? I mean, there was no reason for Trump to stay out on that stage. If you have police who are concerned enough to be sprinting to the shooter with guns drawn, then that's more than enough to get Trump off stage, and they simply didn't do it.
And of course, there's also concerns that the Secret Service, part of the Department of Homeland Security, hasn't been forthcoming with information about its planning, about its execution of its plan on that day. So I would expect more government hearings, more congressional hearings, Casey, and perhaps more new evidence about the Secret Service failures. But that is all the time we have. Thank you for joining us today, Casey. Listeners can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com.